Hello, I'm Shawn Buckley with the Natural Health Product Protection Association. Welcome to Talk Forum. And I'm really pleased today to have as a guest Jacinte Levesque Naessens. And Jacinte is involved heavily with the product 714X. And I have to say, I'm in my 32nd year of practicing law in the area of health. And throughout that entire period, I've been, hearing about this product, and throughout the years, people would ask me, well, what about 714X? And I would hear about there being access problems, but I didn't really know that much about the product and the theory behind it and the different challenges that the company had had. And it does illustrate access problems with, consenting adults wanting to decide to take a complementary treatment or just a different treatment altogether, and how our government, with Health Canada as kind of the muscle, the enforcement arm, completely takes away our ability to choose to access products that we'd want to. And isn't it a shame? I mean, this company could move to Mexico. They've chosen not to, and it'd be freely available and Canadians could go and access it, but not in Canada. And I've long ago, and I don't want to go crazy here, but long ago come to the opinion that there's some diseases that we're not able to cure. And Jacinte, I know you guys don't say you cure cancer, for example. I know you don't say that. You don't say you cure anything. But even if you assist with something like that, boy, like you don't want to be a naturopathic doctor saying that intravenous vitamin C might assist with cancer, even though it does. So let me introduce you, because you have quite a background. Now, you've got a doctorate in traditional Chinese medicine from the Institute of Acupuncture in Quebec, Montreal. You have a master's in science and community health, Department of Social and Preventative Medicine from the University of Montreal. You've got a Bachelor of Education from New Brunswick and a Bachelor of Science from the University of Moncton in New Brunswick. And you've run clinics. So you've run clinics, and basically you've been heavily involved in organizing in the province of Quebec to have the government recognize treatments by professionals that are not members of the College of Physicians and Surgeons. Like you've been kind of a champion throughout your life, and you're heavily versed in medical science and in, non-medical science. So can you tell us what the heck is 714X and how did it come about?
Thank you. First of all, Shawn, Mr. Buckley, I'm more than happy to be in this show. Thank you so much. I will try to be as, precise as I can. Actually, yes, I had like two lives myself. I did a piece of my life working as an activist for alternative medicine, and myself, I had a clinic in acupuncture. But at some time in 1992, I met the researcher Gaston Naessens, and I become involved as his assistant, working and understanding better the product, 714X, because it seemed very clear that this method or this way of reaching the body was not toxic and would just help the body to upgrade itself and let the natural defenses do the work.
Can I back you up a little bit?
Yes,
because you're running a clinic, and actually people that are well versed in 714X are attending at the clinic to train nurses in how to basically what the protocol is. That was your first experience with it, right?
Yes, my first contact, exactly. I had a clinic, I had nurses. I'm not a nurse myself. So I had Gaston Naessens and his wife, Françoise, his assistant. She was a lab technician too. So they came and trained my staff. And it worked fine. I was offering this service, and some people would come from everywhere in the world. It was an international program where people would stay for 21 days. And then one day, something bad happened. Françoise, his wife, died unexpectedly.
Can I just slow you down though?
Yes.
So people are coming from around the world
Yes.
to your clinic to
Yeah.
access this protocol of 714X.
That's right.
What's the feedback from these people that are coming to use the treatment?
Well, actually, this was like in 1992, 1993. I did it for 2 years. People were coming from Europe, from USA, of course, South America. People were staying 21 days in-house. You know, we were practicing. It was like the beginning, what we call wellness medicine. You know, we were revisiting how to eat, how to meditate, how to sleep, how to do exercise, how to deal with emotions, how to deal with disease, what, you know, all the mindset that you need. That's what we were offering with 714X on top of that.
Can we just unpack that? Because I think some people watching, they might not understand that there's different treatment modalities. And, you know, we had done this, NHPPA just did this health charter tour, and I'm interviewing medical doctors, I'm interviewing naturopaths, I'm interviewing traditional Chinese practitioners. And in allopathic medicine, so the medical doctors, it's actually a philosophy of healing. And I know you know what I'm saying, but it's for the audience. So under allopathic medicine, if somebody comes to you and they're suffering, whatever you do, don't you dare fix the underlying problem. You know, the one exception may be cancer treatments, because they do try to get, well, no, they don't try to get the cause of the cancer.
Right. You know, we have to see it as there's two models for intervention on the human being that is sick. We'll take cancer for the example, because, you know, it's quite obvious that cancer is a major cause of disease. In cancer, you have what we call the tumor-based model. We focus on the tumor and we do whatever we need to do, cut, burn, chemotherapy on the tumor. We're focusing on the tumor.
Well, it really is those three things. So yes, we will cut you, surgery, we will burn you with radiation, and we will poison you with chemotherapy.
We will try to kill the bad cells as much as we can, understanding that we will kill something else. That's what we call conventionally the tumor-based model. The other model in which I work is what we call the person-based model. We work with a variety of, it's like the holistic approach. We deal with the body, we deal with the emotions, we deal with the knowledge, we deal with the spiritual aspect. All these aspects are intertwined into what we call, it creates the fundamental of our immune system. This is what the body is all about, you know, the natural defenses, including. So 714.
Well, this is what I'm trying to get people to appreciate. So the allopathic system, they're not going to ask you about your lifestyle, your medical. They're not going to ask you about your spiritual life. They're not going to ask you about your stress load. It's like, well, we're going to just focus on the tumor.
On the tumor, that's the tumor.
Whereas, you know, like let's just say the naturopathic tradition, pretty well every other healing tradition, they look at you as a whole person.
They see you as
what's your lifestyle, what's your diet, what's your toxic load, what's your stress level? Because if the person isn't healthy, then you're not going to get healthy. Like it basically, I just want people to appreciate when you're talking about doing this in the early 90s, you guys are kind of early to the game, but it's a healing tradition where you look at the whole person to get them healthy.
And exactly, but that was quite new. It was the beginning of what we call, you know, the wellness medicine. Now it's well understood. It's much later in time. And, you know, the USA and Europe, and now, you know, wellness medicine is obviously the trend right now. How we eat, how we think, combination. And that's where we realize each person is unique. You know, it's not a one size fit all. Each person metabolizes food differently, the way we were brought up, our conditioning, our system of knowledge, all the limiting beliefs we have, all this has to be addressed one by one in order to put one person back on its feet so he can progress and recover its own health, understanding sometimes that it's just the way he lived, or too much stress, or too much of we know that chemical products can change the chemistry of the body. A shock, different shocks, you're losing a job, you lose your wife, you lose your children. And this crazy life, we're all running after something that we don't know what's going on. But this lifestyle going fast is very hard on our immune system. But now people are more and more aware of it. And thanks to the education, thanks to the movement, thanks to the consumers group, thanks to people like you who are bringing out this consciousness. But this consciousness needs one, there's one thing we need to access. It's, can we choose the professional we want? Can we choose the product we want? And can we choose the therapy we want? Because bottom line, health is, it's a big, it's a pile of decision that you do every day. To be healthy.
I want to move us through this because we have so much to cover, but I wanted people to appreciate what you were saying. So you've got this clinic, people are coming all around the world to, do 714X treatments at your clinic. And then, you basically, Gaston's wife dies, and eventually you become his second wife and you become intimately involved.
Of course, this clinic brought me.
That was the wrong choice of word. I meant intimately involved with the product and the manufacturer. And
what was meant, I think God did it happen because Gaston's talent and myself and put together. I mean, we were not, few days after we were together, we were doing some presentation at the American Naturopathic Association, because Gaston was someone that didn't talk a lot. He was quite introverted, and I'm more someone that speak out and more excited and more passionate. And I'd like to explain. I'm a teacher. Bottom line, I'm a teacher. I'd like to explain things so people make it clear and it's easy to understand.
Okay, so tell us the theory. Or how did 714X come about? And, why is it that people are wanting to access it? And hopefully we'll even get to some of the stories. I know that you've got 3 posted on your website, so clearly you've got permission to talk about those.
Yes, these cases. Well, very briefly, the whole story started when Gaston, as a student, wanted to work with a different type of microscopy, and himself being an engineer, designed a new type of microscopy that would work with what we call live specimen. So he decided to look at live blood rather than look at dry smear like conventional medicine does, which is okay because you count the blood cell. But he wanted to see the blood cells in action. By looking at live blood, he discovered a little tiny particle in blood that he never saw before. And that, pretty much as a scientist, he had to make sure it was not an artifact, that it was not contamination. So easy to say, but it took 6 years of his time to extract this particle and confirm that it was a live particle, put it into a petri dish with whatever nutrients were necessary, in the liquid environment, and then looked at it at a microscope. And it was for him a revelation that this tiny little particle had a full-blown 16-phase cycle, and wherever the cycle was, he could correlate this with a certain status of the health of the person. Let me say it otherwise. If the person was healthy, we could see the summited form in 1, 2, 3, a little summited double spore, and on a diagram, it looks like this because, this is like the healthy, it's like a pie. If we see pictures, little forms like that in that little part, it means that your natural defenses are strong. There's a protection gate that keeps this ongoing. What purpose does this serve? Reproduce itself, because life wants one thing, to grow and reproduce. So the healthy reproduction of different cells in different organs was happening because of that gate control. Now, for whatever reason, this gate control jumps and we lose it. we see in blood all this foam blood and cycle, which carries a lot of shapes and forms. And so Gaston, studied this very, very seriously and understood very well what was happening. But for a scientist to have the knowledge, it's one thing, but he said, what purpose will this serve humanity if I understand this perfectly and I don't do anything to halt this process? Because this full-blown cycles happen like 2 years before we can measure it in terms of abnormal cells, through pathology slides. So he said, I must find something that will help the body to restore its own inner balance and will not be toxic, will be liquid, because in his mind, Gaston has always taught and seen and measured that the lymphatic circulation was more than important to keep us healthy. And nowadays, we see that more and more, that the lymphatic system is considered as a whole system by itself. So 714X came as, you gave 714X. It's sort of a restorative product that brings back the protection gate that we need for regular occurrence of cellular division in our body. So it's...
Can I kind of try to see if I can distill this to see that I've gotten it? And
go ahead, Mr. Buckley. My pleasure.
Gaston is doing years and years and years of live blood analysis. In fact, he creates a microscope that it allows him to see even better. It's almost like a repeat of the Royal Rife story, where he's got to create a better microscope. So Gaston has to create a better microscope. He finds these somatids, and after years of study, he can tell by looking at them where somebody's health is.
He can tell the state of the natural defenses. It's not a diagnostic test. It's a preventive screening test. Mm-hmm. Telling us that something's wrong. If there's nothing done, the door is wide open, burglars are, something bad is coming, but you have time. There's a 2 years stretch of time that we can address it and prevent. So it's interesting. It's not as if it's already done. No, and this is what we call the gray zone. People are feeling tired. They don't know what they have. They go and see the doctor, take blood tests. Nothing shows up. And oops, at a certain point, all this time, it's like the 2 years lap where the body is, the gate protection is falling slowly. The body, the lymphatics get all clogged up. And that's where problems are going to be coming up.
Okay, because the lymph system, it's kind of the garbage disposal. You describe it as the vacuum cleaner.
It's a metaphor, yes.
So it sucks up stuff from the blood and it eliminates it from the body. So if the lymph system isn't working properly, you basically can't detox. You're collecting garbage, and that's going to create problems. So 714X is injected into the lymph system. It makes its way into the blood system, but it gets the lymph system draining again and working properly. And it also helps the blood, right? But it's just basically trace nutrients, isn't it?
It is trace minerals, water. There is what you call nitrogen in it. There's attached to a molecule of camphor, because camphor is not the active ingredient. Camphor is like a taxi in the body. Camphor has a high trophism for wherever there's trouble in the body. Camphor drives there, attracted automatically where there's trouble. So the nitrogen necessary for the body to repair and clean and do all the nice what it's supposed to do is attached to the nitrogen and camphor, and it's in the based water, a lot of water, mineral salts, and very close. It's a pH, neutral pH, that resembles very much like the blood. So you inject a product with a pH 7 into the bloodstream that has a neutral pH. So it has to be the first action of 714X is mechanically resolving the problem of the lymphatic circulation. It's not addressing disease. It's not addressing bad cells. It's addressing the blood system, which is the only liquid in the body. And anything traveling in the blood is either a nutrient or a waste product. It's going somewhere or reaching the organs or arriving from, it has to be, taken care by the organs of elimination. So the blood,
Okay.
highly important.
So, one point I want people to understand. So this isn't a novel chemical.
Not at all.
No. So it's not a novel chemical. It's camphor, nitrogen, and some trace, basically some minerals suspended in a salt solution that's at a pH 7. So it's basically a neutral pH vis-a-vis the body. That's just meant to get, the intention is to get the lymphatic system working again, which then the blood gets all cleaned out and assists. So we're not talking about anything toxic. We're not talking about anything synthetic.
Or anything that would reach the body just if a person is sick. It has nothing to do with the sickness. It has to do with helping the body to restore its own inner capacity to heal itself.
Right. So
that's what it is.
So cancer, for example, everyone watching this has cancer, and you've had for every day of your life, because we get cancer cells and the immune system handles it.
That's right.
So, news flash, you all have cancer, but who cares? Because a healthy immune system solves it. So we're just using that ugly C word because I know that a lot of people that have wanted to who have accessed 714X have had tremendous success with cancer. But it's not that it would treat cancer. It just helps your body get to where it should be again so that it can do what it wants.
What it wants and is, supposed to do. So if you take, cancer cell and you put 714X on them, it's not going to do anything. We're not a cytotoxic product. We don't kill anything. We nurture the immune system.
Yeah, right now I'm on the tail end of a cold and I'm taking vitamin C and vitamin D. That doesn't cure my cold, but it helps my immune system do what it wants to do, which is get rid of the cold.
Exactly the same principle.
It's the same idea, right? I just want to say that because, I've recently heard some criticism, oh my gosh, it's used as a cancer treatment. No, it can. When you've got cancer, your immune system's fallen on its face. That's why you've got cancer. So it's just it's just a tool to help your immune system. Now, my understanding is basically this has been looked into. It's injected. There can be some redness around the injection area in that, but basically it's been proven to be absolutely safe.
Because first of all, being holistic, we encourage empowerment and we feel that, it's a self-injection, but there's no foreign protein, no risk of shock, no risk of allergies. And there's a strict protocol where we show step by step to the person using the product how to self-inject. And everybody's doing it marvelously well. And you need alcohol. You need, to do minimally aseptic conditions. But people take their health and take their condition in their hand and they become I would say they're taking charge of and they're empowered to do that. And they're happy to do it. So,
and here's the point so here's 714X. I run across treatments all the time that some people really, are literally invested in, maybe even through personal experience. And I might find myself totally disinterested in that. And, I might be interested or disinterested in 714X. So, if you're watching this and you're going, I don't really care for this. But the idea here right now, though, is shouldn't you have the ability to access something if you want to try it? Because that's where I have a real problem with how we've structured our laws, in that it is basically illegal to take anything that the government doesn't approve of. And then the approval system is designed so that products like 714X will never get approved. And we'll go into that. We'll go into that drug approval process in a minute. So we've literally structured ourselves in Canada where for serious health conditions, the only legal treatments are surgery or novel chemicals that had a patent when they were approved. And I mean, that's the absolute truth. And you kind of have to ask yourself, well, do we get good health outcomes if we limit ourselves to treating ourselves with surgery and or novel chemicals that the body's never seen before? They have to be novel to get patented, that had a patent when they went through the drug approval process. That's madness. But then the flip side is well, if we enter a system where it isn't illegal to take things, excuse me, approved of by the government, then people have to have the right to decide to access things. And Jacinte, I get, if something's dangerous, there's got to be full warning and full disclosure. And there are some things that so cross the line. But when we're dealing with natural products, which is where I spend most of my time, like, why are we even talking danger? Their risk analysis has them below the ultra safe line. And my understanding by looking into 714X is safety just really isn't a problem here.
Well, Health Canada has authorized more than 22,000 authorization up to today, in the last 37 years. And there was never, not even one,
report of an adverse
effects reported. And I will just say the words of the judge when we were in a trial, and the patient decided that, when Health Canada was not sure they would continue the 714X, and the patients got all together and they got organized and there was a trial. And, the judge, first question, anybody died with this product? And of course, nobody said no. Any side effects reported? Everybody said no. And the judge just bluntly said, well, maybe it's good after all. And, everybody started to laugh, but he had to follow the rules. I mean, it's just...
Can I just back up? Because, you've said, okay, 22,000 authorizations by Health Canada, but the product was used before Health Canada got involved.
The product was used, by
so there's been the point is it was used for years and years and years before Health Canada stepped in to restrict its use only through what's called the Special Access Program. So those 2 years at your clinic, that we're not counting those numbers. We're not counting other clinics' numbers. We're not counting Gaston. So who knows the total number, but Health Canada alone can track 22,000 administrations of this without a single adverse reaction report ever. And there's been court cases, and Health Canada's never been able to point to a single problem.
So, I mean, it's just that we don't fit in their protocol. It's just that we're cornered. I'm not a health product. I cannot say that I'm a health product because it's a product that it's manufactured, it's done, it's a mixture. And we have patents on it, but it's neither a drug in the traditional sense because it's always the same regimen. You take the same protocol of 714X, even if you have a complicated disease or you have no disease, because the product was designed to do prevention in your body. It's just to keep you healthy. 1 or 2 rounds of this product keeps you healthy.
Somebody who just wanted to make sure the lymph system's draining well could go through protocol. Let's go into the drug approval process because I want people to understand this. So something like 1714X would be called there's a term called new drug in our drug regulations. And to go through then the approval process, and anyone can look it up, I think, just look at the new drug regulations. I believe the section's even C.07.001. But it's not the regulations so much as the policy. All of the things that they require you to do is so expensive. So here we've got a product that Health Canada knows there aren't side effects, that they know people want to access it. They know that the anecdotal evidence of benefit is huge, and that's why several medical doctors would apply for the program because they've had positive experience, and some cancer clinics have included it in its protocol. So there's all of this demand, but notwithstanding all of that, you have to go through this process, and the last time I had a drug approval expert under oath and asked them, just give me a ballpark. What's it cost to go through this process? It was, without blinking, the expert said $1 billion. No, it doesn't mean you can't do it for several hundred million, but it does, on a real simple application, which yours wouldn't be. But it does mean that unless you have a patent with big money backing behind you, you can't get through the process because you can't raise the funds, which is why in Canada, with the exception of Primarin, in the lifetime of everyone watching this, every single drug that's been approved as a new drug has been a novel chemical that had a patent. And this is by design. So so there's no way you could ever get through this because you can't patent your ingredients. But you have tried. There's been interest in getting research done. And when I looked into it, Jacinte, the word sabotage came up. Sabotage, sabotage, sabotage. Can you tell us about the National Cancer Institute and the research that they were excited about looking into?
I'm going to start first, about 1997, new tests were coming out. We call them immunoassay tests. They were not available in Canada. They were only available in the States. And we hired professionals in Toronto that carried this product, very professionally. The product and the placebo that looked the same and did not have the molecule. And these professionals decided to have the immunoassay test done at Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. And sure enough, it turned out that everybody was excited. It was promising. It was doing things that they had never seen. And at some point, they wanted to know who's the lab manufacturing this.
And I'll just stop. This institute's at Harvard University.
It's Dana-Farber Cancer. It's in Boston. The Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. They're doing research on cancer. And we did not even choose the establishment. Our consultant did, because the test, the immunoassay test was new. It was quite affordable. Now, once we had the results, it was very exciting. The doctors, the researchers, Dr. Purdy, he wanted to do a clinical trial. We wanted to do. At some point, everything stopped. And there was a call on the researcher to return, not to give us the results. We had to fight. We have to take a wide legal action to access our results. Okay? And at the same time, this is God's synchronicity. We had our poster child, I would say Billy Best in the United States, had been using 714X. I will not say cured, but he had good results, and he was from Dana-Farber, and he saw all this happening. So he called the press. And it started a big movement on Dana-Farber. And at some point, they couldn't stand because Fox News was there every day, a lot of pressure on them. Why would they not give us our results? And then came in so much pressure on Dana-Farber that decided to take us and bring us to the Office of Alternative and Complementary Alternative. And it removed the lights on Dana-Farber, and then we were invited to do a best case series, which we did with the National Cancer Institute, the section of OCCAM. It took 2 years. We presented 20 cases, the before and after, conclusive. Everything was well, we worked hard because we don't have a clinic, so we had to recuperate the proof everywhere in the world. But then a week before we were to present all these results, the committee that was supposed to hear us was disbanded. No more committee. We had done 2 years of work. So what they did, they brought us.
Just hang on. I just want to unpack this. So at the Dana-Farber Center, or Cancer Institute, basically everyone's excited. Things are moving along.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, bang, all of a sudden, night and day. We're not continuing.
The moment they knew it was Gaston Naessens private lab, and the moment they knew, they called Health Canada. And then that's where the trouble started. Right.
So they're all excited about the results. Everyone's ticking along. And then they won't even share the results.
No, we had to fight to get our results.
You had to fight for that. And then now here we are, we're the National Cancer Institute. They're going to look at 20 cases. This has all been assembled. Ton of work to get that done. You're a week away from presenting all of this data, and that committee's disbanded.
And we're writing.
I mean, it carries
crazy.
on.
We're writing.
Can I just share with you? Can I share with you a similar thing? That was part of a court case I was involved with. So, in Alberta, the Faculty of Medicine at the University of Calgary has a unit at Children's Hospital called the Behavioral Research Unit, and all they do is clinical research of all types. Your double-blind clinical trials right down to case series and that. But all they do, year after year, decade after decade. Well, they did a couple of case series on a product called Empower Plus. And, one was published in the Journal of Psychiatry, the other in the Journal of Child and Adolescent Psychopharmacology. And the results just blew their minds. So they go to the Alberta government with that research, their research and other research. And they said, we've never seen anything like this. So we think the Alberta government should pay for a double-blind clinical trial. And the Alberta government agreed. And halfway through that trial, the CTV National News, it was back in the day of Lloyd Robertson, remember when he was the anchor? Well, they do a lead story on the promising results of this government-funded double-blind clinical trial. The next day, Health Canada shuts it down. Not because of safety concerns. And in fact, Dr. Bonnie Kaplan, we've got her on video at the World's Greatest Health Show, so people can go to NHPPA TV and watch that. She said if she didn't say it online, she said it to me personally, but I think she said it online, that she wouldn't name the person, who I think was Sadiqa Mithani, but if I got that wrong, forgive me, Sadiqa. But she said she was told clearly, you guys are not going to get, because they were then trying to get Health Canada approval. You are not going to get approved because there's other things going on here, right? This is what it sounds like happened to you.
Exact same situation. But you know what it did? We were just leaving to go to Washington to that committee, to present our cases. They decide to bring up these cases to a drug developmental group of the NCI, a group of
FDA, right?
Yeah. I mean, we walked in a room, there was about 40 people, a wide table, all men in dark with hands like this. And I mean, they have nothing to do with clinical studies. They're not in this world at all. They don't even understand what we're trying to say. So we presented our cases, and then Gaston and I were excluded from the room. We just, and it was the NCI. Every level we went up, we could hear the door closing, to high security, at the top of the NCI. So finally we walked out of the room and
Can I just stop you?
Yeah.
Can I just stop you? NCI meant National Cancer Institute.
Yes.
Right. Okay. I just want to say that because there's another NCI. So you're talking about the National Cancer Institute.
Yeah, the American National Cancer Institute. And then it was with a group of drug developmental group, which had a link with the FDA. So, I mean, all this was intertwined. And finally, we never received the final result of that committee. It just ended there, and we never heard about anything else as of today. But we had our results, and with our results, we continued working. Gaston worked with the University of Sherbrooke here, worked with the University of Toronto, and then worked with the University of Montreal with a professor that was a top-notch microscopist who reproduced Gaston's work, the first part. It was divided in 3 parts. The first part, nice, fun. He saw the somatin, he saw that it was a live particle, and we were reaching step 2. We were at the step 2, what contains this particle? Are they proteins? What are they? And then again, the University of Montreal stopped the whole project. It ended there. Couldn't go any further.
Right. And there's significance there of basically a university stepping in and telling a professor that they can't continue a line of research. Like, that's unusual.
It's unusual. And it's so funny, Mr. Buckley, because the top researcher at Dana-Farber was 78, and he would say, nobody's going to tell me what to do in my lab. And Professor, same as University of Montreal, Moïse Bendayan, he said, nobody's going to tell me. He's a top-notch researcher in microscopy. And he was so happy to work with Gaston. And I mean, it was exciting for him. It was like a novel thing to discover this particle and just identified what is it, just to make sure that the solid grounds of the theory before going more into the product, but more, what is this omitted? What is this live particle? And what purpose does it serve? But he too was asked to stop. He was asked to stop working well on that project because he would lose all his grants.
Isn't that funny? So not about scientific merit. So
nothing
yeah,
to do. And he was finally he got sick about it. He couldn't realize how much pressure was put on him not to work with us. But it's okay. We continued with all this information. We had enough information to apply for the patents. And this is how, after we applied for the patents, and we had the American patent, Canadian, European, and now the Japanese one, the last one.
Right, but the patent is on the manufacturer. Wait, we got to back up the bus, because we were just talking about how you need a patent to get through the new drug approval process. The patent's not on the ingredients; it's on the way you manufacture it.
It's on the what they call the know-how, the mixture.
Yeah, the way you manufacture it. Yeah.
Yes, it's the specificity of which is very rare because. Patents usually comes from universities. Very, very rare that a one-man private lab would get some patents.
Right.
Very,
okay.
Very rare.
So, all basically, high-level institutions that wanted to look into this, it got shut down.
One way or the other, I will call this the unseen hand. The invisible, unseen hand comes in at one point and stops everything.
Okay. Now, I also want to back up because, there's an interesting thing about this special access program and how basically it looks like Health Canada's just made a policy decision to turn off the tap. So the first stage is Gaston and other clinics, are the products available? But then Health Canada steps in and says, no, you don't have approval. You cannot sell it. No clinic can use it. Only if you go through what's a special access program. Can you share with people what the special access program is and then what the experience has been? I'll pull up this graph when you're ready for it.
Okay, because special access program in Canada first started in 1964, and it was strictly on compassionate grounds. It was the last chance treatment to whoever could not find comfort or a good product or would not fit or there would be nothing existing. So that was the idea of the emergency drug program. And 714X was pushed into that program. So it requested doctors and it went really well because at some point, there was about like 125 patients a week for a variety of symptoms. I think altogether there was 236 different diagnoses that the product was asked for. And we had like 5 or 6 prescriptors in Canada. 5 or 6 doctors were taking most of the lead in this. One that I have to mention because he was such an angel is Dr. Rogers in his clinic in Vancouver, because he was one of the first doctors who said, okay, I'm going to help patients to find other solutions. And he would sit with the patients and would look on the website and he would decide. And finally, he was using 7-4. He was the one who prescribed or requested the more 714X. He was in Vancouver.
Okay,
and he
so,
did a marvel.
So it enters the special access program. And at the beginning, everything's going well.
It's fluid. And
okay,
it's 24 hour. It works well. There's no resistance. But one day, everything stopped.
So this is a chart that you've given me And, the the brown bar that goes the highest, that shows total doses approved of by Health Canada through the Special Access Program. And I appreciate, for those of you watching, that the years at the bottom are very difficult to see. But the peak, that highest peak, is around 1997. Yeah, so you guys enter the Special Access Program, and I mean, it just looks like Health Canada's granting access as doctors are applying on behalf of their patients. But then that peak, I mean, it really starts to go down. What's happening? Because you've already told us there's no adverse reaction reports. People aren't complaining. The fact that it's going up and up is clearly signaling that medical doctors are finding the merit of applying for access is justified for their patients.
Well, I would say that internal policy changed. Their law didn't change, regulations didn't change, internal policy changed because it was coming out of control, really. It was a big job to fill in these requests, and they couldn't cope with it. So they decided to stop it for all diagnoses except for cancer. Today, they're giving the product only for cancer patients that have gone through all the process and are mostly at the end of their life. So, it doesn't serve the purpose very well. I'm losing you.
I'm sorry, I turned my mic off. So
yeah, sorry.
You were saying, I think there were 236 diagnoses, yes, different diagnoses that were approved under the Special Access Program. But Health Canada...
they answered to it.
Right. Well, and what that means, just so people watching, it means that these patients' medical doctors, for 236 different conditions, having looked at 714X, had made the medical decision that it would be appropriate to use, for Health Canada to grant access, for that medical doctor to use 714X as a treatment for that patient, for that condition. That's a medical decision that Health Canada is not qualified to make. But what you're saying is Health Canada made a policy decision. Oh, I don't care what the medical doctors who are trained, who know the history of the patient, who has been treating the patients, and, as part of their medical opinion to get the best treatment and results for their patients. Health Canada says, I don't care about that. We're restricting this to cancer only.
And putting a new condition that it would probably put the manufacturer, a small manufacturer, if we don't file for the homologation process, it jeopardizes our status of, having the product released. So
basically go through a process that you'll never be able to finish because you can't afford it.
Because that was not the condition when we walked or we were put into this program. Because it never happened.
Nor is it a condition of the program, I don't think.
No, because it's on compassionate grounds.
Yeah.
For people. And Health Canada had looked at our product and had done the sterility test, and, we were all complying. And actually, this is a very narrow program where the doctor don't even put its own liability into it. When a doctor signs for this program, the patient is taking full responsibility of the product.
Right. Okay. Now, patients, so Canadians, consenting adults that want to have a say in accessing because they're suffering health-wise, and their doctors are supporting them, but they're not getting approval, they get fed up and they do something. They start a court case. Can you tell us about that?
Well, actually, what happened, Health Canada wanted to do like two status. The old patients would continue to receive it, but they would take no new treatment. And that's where the consumer said, okay, no, I think in Canada, there should not be two categories of patients. There should be, the same law should apply for everyone, which the judge gave reason to this. And that was like proposing the first step before the class action suit.
Right. So you get certified. But the point I'm trying to make is you guys didn't start this lawsuit.
No, we didn't.
These are just Canadians that want
Yes.
to access 714X. They see that the door is being closed by Health Canada. So they band together, nothing to do with you. Canadians, some of them band together to basically get a class action suit certified against Health Canada, saying you owe us damages because you're restricting our access to the program. And then Health Canada negotiates. Am I right?
Health Canada negotiates until the class action suit is removed. They're doing it, well, a little bit more, but not much more. They're not very happy with the court decision.
They're not happy with the certification decision.
No,
it's not like there was a trial in the...
No, but they're
Although
not
I
happy
can't-
at all because it forces them to continue to have our product into their program.
Right. So, and I just want to make sure people understand. So Health Canada's totally turning the tap off. Canadians just band together and certify a class action suit, and Health Canada gets reasonable, and then the class action suit goes away because they're being reasonable, and then Health Canada turns the tap off again.
Back. So,
I'm going to pull this chart up again because right now there's hardly any approvals by Health Canada.
no, there's not.
So effectively,
That's it. Sorry, it comes in and they say denied, no clinical trials, no. They don't even consider the information we gathered through Dana-Farber or all the tests we did, and they don't even want to hear about it.
but it doesn't matter because the special access program is for products that haven't been approved.
You're right.
So, I mean, that's what it's for. It's like, so this is interesting. So basically this, this product that had been widely used before Health Canada stepped in was definitely, as this chart shows, I mean, you say it's 22,000 approvals. These 22,000 approvals are at the request of medical doctors.
Always.
But now basically, and it's not that medical doctors aren't applying because people are contacting you saying, I'm denied. What can I do?
And I don't know the doctors who applied at Health Canada because it's a triangle. The doctor first-hand information transmitted to Health Canada. Health Canada authorizes, usually within certain conditions, but now they're denying all of them. And then when Health Canada authorize, they send a paper to us. Okay, you can deliver such quantity of product delivered at the doctor's office.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I get, the heebie-jeebies with needles, right? So, but just in preparing for this lecture and having previous conversations with you, I thought, I actually wouldn't mind trying this protocol. I don't see any downside, right? Like I'm not, there's been no single adverse reaction, and Health Canada would be watching and would certainly bring it up if there had been.
Of course.
And, it's basically, trace amounts of minerals and the like, nitrogen and the like, and all this great anecdotal evidence. So I'm just saying, boy, as a Canadian, I'd love to have the opportunity to try it, but it looks like really the door's closed. Like there's only a couple of approvals a year now. So basically, 714X is no longer available in the world
To Canadian citizens, unless. I think we're at a crossroad, Mr. Buckley, and let me just share this for a moment. I think that the work you're doing with with your group and all, the project you had all autumn going across Canada, I think this will bring awareness among the people because there's a lot of people who would love to do something, but they don't know exactly. So I think we're at a crossroad where I think the lay people, the human beings will need to organize, be aware, and do something together. I think all this shows up that we're at a crossroad and prevention should be available because if we do, wellness medicine, we're not going to be sick. We're not going to cost on the system that's already in failure, actually. So I see it as an opportunity right now to put all our, our strength all together. In this way, I'm more than happy to bring my contribution to what the work you're doing with yourself and many others in Canada. You know, we're not the only good product, but we have similar stories than just the one you said about the product for the bipolar disease. It's interesting.
I find it interesting that it's basically illegal in Canada to, you know, treat serious health conditions with anything but surgery and the approved chemical drugs.
Approved chemical drugs. And now there's a new arm, you know, of cancerology they call immunology, but it's again, it's a type of, you know, of chemotherapy that is a little bit different, but it's like chemotherapy disguised under the name of immunotherapy, because immunology is quite, you know, it's fashion right now. It's very nice to talk about immunotherapies. So, and we realize clinically what we see now, working with doctors on the field, many doctors, alternative, holistic, or conventional doctors, since the pandemic, can no longer take the risk to do the request of that drug through Health Canada. The doctors are being pressured by their own medical corporations.
This is interesting. So what's leading you to say that? Because I could go into ivermectin as a similar example. So what experience have you had to lead you to think that doctors are getting pressured not to?
I hear patients, I hear doctors, and I have even here an official letter. You know, University of Montreal oncologist, she writes, because this patient was very, very insistent. Why can you not fill this form for me? You know that I'm going to take full responsibility. I know the product will help me. And she said she couldn't say, she didn't talk, she didn't say anything. But actually, she wrote the letter. The patient insisted, write to me why you couldn't make it. She did not give the reason, but she said, unfortunately, I was not able to fill in. I was not in a proper position to fill in the form you were requesting. So I think it's said that they're not allowed to go beyond what is the strict protocol of what is asked in conventional oncology.
It's I think doctors have really, since COVID, lost a lot of autonomy. Like, and you know, maybe some doctors can correct us, but I was under the impression pre-COVID that doctors had a lot of latitude in their scope of practice. So, you know, if I went to the doctor understanding my history and what I'm facing health-wise, could actually try and decide what treatments, you know, would work best for me and just go, whether they were approved for that condition or whatever. I mean, I know a lot of treatment protocols, a drug is approved for one thing, but patients start reporting improvement in other things, and the doctors start talking, and there's case series done. Like, most medical decisions are based on anecdotal evidence. There's a difference between the drug approval process and making good treatment decisions. And I thought doctors had a lot of latitude. But COVID comes along, and it basically becomes medical malpractice to go against public health guidelines. In the province of Alberta, where I am, my understanding is that basically doctors were told that it would be professional misconduct to prescribe ivermectin off-label use.
Same here.
Wow.
Same for
Now,
that.
and I recently checked, like, I mean, within the last week, because I was writing an article for Vitality magazine where I was using ivermectin as an example. So there's only one, Merck is the only company that has ivermectin in pill form approved. Two others have it in a topical, like a gel for rashes. And it's only approved for two parasites, which, you know, Canadians are not likely to have. Like, how many of us have river ringworm type thing? I've never even heard of it except in reading about ivermectin. But I mean, ivermectin is so desired by Canadians that there's this whole black market. Like, I mean, I'm aware of a whole bunch of places where I can get ivermectin because Canadians want it. They understand it's a kick butt antiviral. They understand there's now all this evidence emerging about cancer. Like, what doesn't it do, right? And it's so safe, there's no downside. Like, the World Health Organization itself has likely, given out 5 billion doses. Like, as part of their mass access program. In many third world countries, it's referred to as Sunday, so that you remember to take it on Sunday. You take it weekly without prescription. But in Canada, so most of the world, people are encouraged to take it weekly without prescription. But in Canada, I bet you none of us watching this, and you and I, Jacinte, I bet you none of us could get our doctors to write us a prescription for ivermectin, even if we tested positive for those parasites, because they're afraid of being disciplined. And this goes on to what you're saying. So I feel sorry for medical doctors. The practice of medicine has become political. And the treatment of serious health conditions, I mean, I've learned over my 30 years, don't you cure cancer. You can cure cancer, you just can't tell anyone so that you're in your own little bubble and nobody's helped. And you can cure heart disease, just don't tell anyone. And you can cure serious mental illness, just don't tell anyone. Because it's not for the public. The public is not allowed to solve this. Can you share with us some stories? Because you're not marketing to the public. Health Canada would probably still hate it, but because, when people have real life experience, and you don't have to, but when people, I know that there's story after story after success story after success story. And people might go, well, that's anecdotal evidence.
It's all, yes, I understand, but
I know, but when I know people that needed a double bypass surgery and then never got one and died of old age 30 years later, and I've seen their angiograms, well, that's anecdotal evidence. But the reality is that they had a heart attack. They were rushed to emergency in an ambulance. They were given the angiogram, and one artery was fully blocked and one was 3/4 blocked, and they were told they couldn't survive without a double bypass. And 30 years later, they die in an old folks' home, having never had that. Yeah, that's anecdotal evidence. And when it's repeated time and time and time again.
But, stories, any story I can tell you, I mean, it's always a patient who decides to take the product and do it on its own and, really does it very seriously. And then the magic of the human body operates. I mean, we just see it happen, and it gives us, I would say, so much, trust in the human body. If you give the good ingredients, you let it go as it should, and you remove what's not needed in the body. So, I mean, it's stories. We have tons and tons of stories for us, for Gaston and I, and for me nowadays that Gaston is gone. The story is interesting, but what's mostly interesting is that a human being is recovering its health. He's going to be a better father, a better lover, a better worker. Family is going to be coming back again, and these people will work for their dream, and it's human life becoming interesting again, and that gives quality of life. So that's the stories we hear every day. But I mean, of course, also the product can also be taken hand in hand. We're not asking to be fighting with the medical system, because we all need the medical system at some point. But how can we work this out in collaboration where but that takes full respect of both parties, I understand, and it takes the authority to do it. But our dream and my dream, my story, my best story I can see is that eventually people will be able to choose whatever they want and see their health as their personal choice, that they can handle this. And the doctor will become more like a consultant, more than a formal person who said, do this and do that and do that, and you're going to do what we want.
Jacinte, on the world's greatest health show, and I'm trying to remember her name, but I interviewed a lady who had been a TV anchor person, news anchor person, and she got breast cancer, and they wanted to put her on chemotherapy. And it's funny, this video got us kicked off of YouTube, the world's greatest health show, because she said, well, she asked the question of her oncologist, well, like she did the surgery, but she asked the question, if I take the chemotherapy, how less likely is it that the cancer will come back? Because for her, the justification being given for the chemo would be that, well, you know, we'd be giving you chemo to help prevent a reoccurrence of the cancer. And I forget the percentage, but it was completely meaningless. Like, I think it was less than 10%. And I know I personally would not go through, because chemotherapy can cause so many other health problems and so much suffering, that like, unless it was a realistic percentage. And when I watched some of the videos of the Smith family on your website, and here she is, she's got, you know, cancer in her lymphatic system, and they want to go through chemo, and she asked, well, like, what's the percentage here that this is going to make a meaningful difference? And it was less than 10%. So
that's an amazing story, because she was given the product while she was in coma. She was dying, and she picked up.
Yeah, no, it is an interesting story, because the mainstream medical system for her was a death sentence. And not only did she not die, but she became healthy again. And we're talking blood cancer, like untreatable blood cancer. Her blood markers returned to normal, and they had never seen that before. Now, you can call that anecdotal evidence, but for that family, that's enough evidence for them. Their mother was dying in a coma with the medical system saying, this is it. And gets a full return to health. So, you know, back to the health freedom part about this is, it's this frustration. Like, I think that the law should be that regardless of the treatment, whether it's a novel chemical, whether, you know, it's an essential nutrient like vitamin C, you have to disclose all the information that you have, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So for the chemical drugs, but it's illegal in Canada, just so that everyone understands. So you have to get approval, whether it's for, like, you know, Vioxx, which how many tens of thousands of Canadians did that kill? Whether it's for vitamin C, which you need to be healthy, or for other essential nutrients that literally without them you will die, you actually have to get permission from Health Canada. This is how upside down it is. You'll die without these essential nutrients, and they're no longer in our food supply in enough quantities for you to stay healthy. But, oh, by the way, because Health Canada has deliberately managed our food supply going from full of nutrients to where you will be chronically sick unless you supplement sooner or later. So, but you have to get approval. And once you get approval, all it's legal to say is what you're approved for. So let's say you get an antidepressant approved. All you can say is it's an antidepressant. So if people are reporting to you suicides and serious adverse reactions, it's actually illegal for you to share that information with the public. Isn't that interesting?
Interesting.
I was in a court case. I'm examining a outside expert hired by Health Canada. This person's under oath. And this person was a psychiatrist that ran a company to get psychiatric drugs approved by Health Canada. And the person was complaining that, you know, well, I've got to give Health Canada 2 double-blind clinical trials showing that the drug outperforms the sugar pill, you know, with enough statistical separation that we can pretend it means the drug works. it's a whole other discussion how it'll be like a 3-week trial because they're relying on the placebo effect, and it's all subjective reporting and all of this. And the drug will only be approved for 3 weeks, like the same as the clinical trial. But your psychiatrist will say it won't even start working for 2 months till we load you up. Well, there's zero evidence of any of that, but the whole thing's a fraud. But where I'm going is, so he says, I got to give Health Canada 2 double-blind clinical trials showing the drug works. So I run 8. I start with 8 because I have to run 8 to get those 2. The other 6, they could be inconclusive. They could show the sugar pill works better than the drug. They could show the drug works better than the sugar pill, but the safety signals are inconvenient. Once they get that approved, like the failed trials are never published. Only the successful trials are published. But once that drug's approved, listen to me, people, it's illegal for that drug company to share with you the 6 failed clinical trials.
That's important.
The researchers are free to publish them, but their contract says they can't. Well, that's crap, people. That's crap. But we censor that information, or our entire government-funded healthcare system would collapse because we would lose confidence if the law was all the information, the good, the bad, and the ugly, including all the adverse reaction reports and deaths, would have to be made public. But it's also illegal for the natural companies and companies like yours, which really are just, the only reason you're not considered a natural product, it isn't the ingredients, it's because it's injected under the skin. It's illegal for you to share all this, truthful health information if you are marketing to the public, which you're not, because you can't, because Health Canada says only special access program. So, we have censorship so that people don't know there are alternatives. And I don't know, what do you think the answer is, other than, A, we should be free to take what we want, but there has to be full disclosure?
I think we're at a crossroad, and I think something new needs to come up. We cannot continue this way because everything is like upside down. We have to hide to do good. Mm-hmm. That makes no sense. People working with good products and doctors working with good methods have to hide in order to do their work properly or help people accordingly. So I think we're really at a crossroad, and I'm a highly positive person that the awareness of all this is going to reach a point where people were going to join in forces. Maybe it's the good time to go and see our MPs to make sure that the bill passes on for the Charter of Freedom and all this.
Yeah, but another conservative crossed the floor, so it might now be, mathematically undoable, which is interesting. But I think you're right. Like, we need to build a bigger coalition. So anyone watching this, you see under my Shawn Buckley, nhppa.org, go to nhppa.org, subscribe to our newsletter, because we have action items, we educate. We're the only group out there doing this. And we have to build a much bigger coalition to force the government to have an honest dialogue about health, where the question being asked is, how do we get the best health outcomes? Because it's certainly not how we're doing it now.
Of course. But there has to be something good that comes out, because you're doing hard work. I'm doing hard. Everybody here, there's tons of people trying to reach out to get this. But how can we put all this together and make a difference? That's where we're at right now. Mm-hmm. And if I can be of any help of any kind, I'm there, and I will continue to be there, because I certainly think that Canadian deserves to be able to choose, good treatments that are not harmful. They're not even aware. Many of them are not even aware right now that they exist.
No, well, it's funny. Like, most politicians and most bureaucrats don't even understand the drug model that we're in. And we've been in it so long, we just accept that it's the way that it's supposed to be. But I think it was Thomas Jefferson who had said that if you allow the government to control what you eat and the medicine you take, that you're in for the worst form of tyranny possible. But what surprises me is I think Canada has the most toxic food supply of any country in the world now, because we've got the U.S. south of a border. I would have said before, they're equally toxic, the food supply. Maybe we're a little more toxic because Health Canada allows things the FDA won't. But now that the FDA is addressing things like dyes and chemicals that really shouldn't be in the food and aren't allowed in the European Union and most around the world, I would say that Canada now has the most toxic food supply in the world. That should sink in for Canadians, because you need to watch the world's greatest health show. Like it's like speaker after speaker after speaker, lay people and experts. One of our leading causes of illness in Canada are the toxins that are in our food and our air and our water. But food being a major contributor. Well, this is all by Health Canada's design.
So
they're allowing all this toxicity into our food.
But, I don't know where, I don't know how, but I trust that something now is going to be coming in, because we need to save the health of people, our Canadian citizens.
Yeah, I think it's getting to the point where it's just we're becoming so unhealthy. And I think a lot of people lost confidence during COVID. Like, I don't care where you were on the conversation about vaccines, because there were, some pretty strong feelings on both ends and a whole bunch of people in the middle. To me, that doesn't matter. I think, in retrospect, we're all concerned about basically, government censorship of information. Censorship always ends badly. So there was just incredible censorship during that period of time, incredible pressure to comply. Even, physicians who were absolutely convinced that for their patient, their history, like, for example, my middle child had an anaphylactic reaction and dropped to the floor during a vaccination in the doctor's office, before elementary school. And that doctor just said, "Your family's sensitive, no more vaccinations for you." Well, there are certain families and certain people, regardless of what you feel about vaccination, it's not for them. But, doctors would be disciplined for writing exemptions, even if the doctor felt, no, this is so legitimate right here. Like, just how it's become politicized, I think we're losing confidence as a population, and our health outcomes are so awful. So, yeah.
Quite chaotic, but I trust, that's the principle of chemistry. When you get something that's really bubbling and chaotic, then a certain, something settles in and brings peace and brings harmony, because the body always tends to reach harmonious situation. And I think we're right there. So a good reason to continue the work we're doing and opening up and bringing more information and trying our best to bring a solution. We're only 714X is a good product. There's tons of good products. I'm offering a solution, a different solution that can help a lot of people. That's all there is to it.
Well, Jacinte, I certainly appreciate you coming on the show and sharing the history. Like I say, for my 32 years of being in the health law field, I just repeatedly, would hear about your product, but I wasn't aware about the research, how it, would get shut down. Not a surprise hearing it. And, with the problems and basically how the special access program appears to have been, shut down by Health Canada decisions, now that you're down to a handful of cases, a year that are being allowed. So it's important for people to hear your story. It's important for people to, kind of get a feel for, what's happening out there. Again, it doesn't matter what your opinion is about the product. We're hoping at least to get you thinking about, but shouldn't you, being fully informed, and especially when other things aren't working, like, shouldn't we have the right, as other people in other countries do, to, basically decide what happens to our body and how we're going to prevent illness and how we're going to treat illness? It's a question we want you thinking about, You don't have to agree with us, but we certainly hope that you think about it. And together that we insist on asking the question, how do we get the best health outcomes? And then have an honest discussion about that. Because I think we'd all be surprised if we could actually have an honest debate about how we get to become the healthiest nation in the world, instead of what we're likely the sickest nation in the world, because we have the most toxic food. We have the tightest control over our, where we're basically forced to take surgery or chemical treatments. And then we're also in the Northern Hemisphere, like we're so vitamin D deficient, to add on to that. So
much.
Yeah. So Jacinte, again, I thank you
so
for,
much, Mr.
for
Buckley.
participating and sharing your
Yes.
story with us. I have to tell you, I
Thank you.
found it really interesting to research and to talk with you.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share and talk with you. And again, congratulations for the work you've been doing the last months. That trip around Canada, that was a lot of work, but it will serve the purpose.
Thank you.
Thank you.